it looks to me that you've got put 2 and 2 together and come up with 6. Right? I said, that bank account is perfectly legal and it's an inheritance from my father. And there's a lot more originally, but one thing or another. But anyway, that is part of that, and it's nothing to do with the sale of drugs. They'd already made the charges. They didn't want to lose face and look a bunch of fucking idiots. But obviously, luckily in Scotland, everything like that goes to a fiscal first. And especially as I did a very lengthy, detailed interview, saying they were trying to get me to talk about my shamanistic beliefs. And I said, no, look, this is personal and private, you want to learn about shamanism, I can guide you to a few books. Probably hoping I'd say something so off the wall that my credibility would have been shattered, but I didn't. Then they did say, well, what were you using this? They finally agreed to call it incense mix. I said, well, it would sometimes be used on very special occasions, because I said it's quite expensive to make. That's another point. I said the cactus powder was imported from South America, big kilo drums, right? Red cactus. It was, I don't think it was peyote, but whatever. It didn't really matter. I shared that a few times. Just cactus powder would have been sufficient for this mix. So it wasn't considered a major ingredient. The salvia divine it was mainly that herb. And it's still being investigated on what this herb is. That's interesting as well. But there you go. It doesn't fit your normal psychedelic material, and it's known as the diviner's herb. It goes back hundreds of years. Witches, if you like, used it. Other psychics, mediums, whatever label you want to put on it. Consciousness explorers, non-narrow-minded cunts, which is what most people are in relation to psychedelics. I'll do that again, so I like that. Narrow-minded cunts, full of cunt shit, meaning they haven't a clue of any factual understanding of what psychedelics are. They just go along, I better not get on my high horse. These other assholes, the DEA and the whole rest of them, are all a bunch of cunts. And people say, well, why is this, Graham? I say, because it's corrupt. Now, look what's happening in the world. This is a few years ago. And I even said to the police, talk about prophetic word. When I was finally released from the police cell, I've been very polite. And they were impressed with this because it's a Friday night and full of your normal rowdy fuck-off coppers shit, right, that comes in. Put up with this. How dare they spell? I'm trying to get some sleep. Right. I didn't, but I relaxed. That's the other thing. I just relaxed. And the doctor was called in to see me because I had got some condition. And again, I was very courteous. In fact, I even apologised. I'm very sorry, but not really a lot to do in here. So I'd gone to napped, got the thing, and they stripped me of your clothes, but I managed to get some rest. Not really the response of someone who's guilty, nervous, and shitting themselves because they could have faced about a 3-year sentence, right? Oh, yeah, drug dealing, whoa, yeah, intent to supply, whoa, they're going to make a meal of this. Anyway, I get out, and months later, admittedly, because I did seem to be being shunned because of this, but I was still in my reclusive mode. I had an encounter with a certain gentleman called Jim Scott, I will say his name, and another certain gentleman who was supposed to have been a friend, known as Biff Gladman, proper name Leslie Gladman. Now, Mr. Leslie Gladman was the only person that I confided in and went to see and said, I'm afraid I did grow a little bit, I said, but I certainly wasn't selling it, as he would know, and everyone knew, they'd have known, because, I just wasn't. I even had some idiot come up to you in Murray mental health meeting, well, why didn't you let me know? But it's actually proof in my favour, because I was just growing it for my own use, you stupid cunt, and I don't see marijuana as a drug. Anyway, back to this individual, Jim Scott. Got any wacky tobacco then? Which is a total ignoramus, idiot cunt, as far as I'm concerned, attitude towards marijuana. Wacky tobacco. Fucking hell. It's like the sort of language a kid would use. I think he is, probably a bit retarded. Certainly an adult wouldn't refer to marijuana as wacky tobacco. It'd either be hash, shit, smoke, blow, these are the adult terminology, slang term, but not wacky tobacco. In fact, I don't think I've ever heard anyone else use that, because maybe I don't surround myself with fuck-brained idiots like that. Incidentally, he's got a diagnosis of schizophrenia, and he tells everyone for years, "Oh, it's all the doctor's fault, it's the drugs they give me." One of these assholes that doesn't take responsibility for his own illness, doesn't realise that whatever it was, he's caused it. He points the finger, he moves in denial, and yet he's always telling people, "Sorry I'm late, I've been talking with General Lee in the shithouse." And this is well known. He'd often come late to bus trips because he's so off his box, if you like, doesn't accept the reality that his General Lee conversations are his own fucking imagination. And even if they're not, he should tell General Lee to fuck off and take control. I mean, I'm a medium myself. If you have an entity that seems to be dominating you, and you're all in awe and rapture, "Oh, I talk General Lee," that's not a healthy relationship. In fact, it sounds that that's part of his major problem. He has a low-level fucking spiritual entity that is literally using him for its own purposes. Well, I can say that because of masturbation. Oh yeah, I've just gone through a lot of teaching of that, and I'm afraid in the Kabbalistic system, masturbation's a big no-no. And they can quote scripture, the Bible. It talks about famous patriarchs being seduced, if that's the right terminology, by their own children, getting them drunk and then taking and masturbating, and so their seed is spilt as they put it on the bed. Apparently any act of that type of masturbation where the seed isn't entering a female counterpart, where there's no possibility of any generation of a new life, isn't a total abuse of the sexual act. Now, I've got to quickly interject here. I'm afraid I've done that. Only because certain authorities, again, you're going to get there, you're in a position of authority, you give out false, distorted information like that, and even though you are an eminent psychologist, right, you've got karma coming, motherfucks. Right, yeah. You have assured people, oh, it's okay to masturbate, it's very good for you and all this shit. And people like me who don't know, well, who'd you go and ask? It's all right to wank, mate. It's all right, You get a conflict of different responses. Oh, certain pastors, again, take that road because they don't want to lose their clientele. Imagine them saying, well, I'm very sorry, you can't wank. All right? And if you do wank, you're out of church. They'd have no fucking members because most of them are a bunch of wankers. Right, but God in his mercy, although it is rather a heinous sin, if you want to use that term, because people have done it in ignorance, and they've been advised by their so-called spiritual mentors and their psychological mentors, it's okay, the karma will be minimal. But I've good news for you all. I'm busting out a wee, so I might have to call this short. Yeah. Good news is, mikvah is a means that God has provided for anyone and anybody to be cleansed of all their sins. It's more potent than baptism, which I might add is only generally practiced to inaugurate someone into the faith. I mean, I feel that Jesus Christ was a Kabbalist, and that the story got, excuse the pun, watered down. I think he did say you don't need someone to dunk you under, but he did give the example that, everyone needs to be and receive mikvah, right? Because your aura is being contaminated all the time. So you could be the purest soul on earth, as Jesus perhaps was, but if he's mixing with other people that aren't, their auras intermingle, and as anybody who knows their salt about mediumship, they have plenty of washes and showers to wash off whatever they may have attracted and picked up and whatever they've just channeled. You know, dead Uncle Fred, you know, not necessarily more highly involved than anyone else in the church. Just because he's no longer in a physical form, he can still be an asshole. But yes, he can talk on the level of, yes, I'll watch you have your tea in the morning, and it gives people proof that life does go on beyond the physical form. I interject quickly, I've contacted the Spiritualist National Union because I have every right to. My father was a member of the Spiritualist National Union, and my father used to take me to Gosport and Southsea Spiritualist churches. And I was open-minded, and I've had some quite interesting messages. But the reason my father went was because my late brother committed suicide. And it often is something like that that gets people to, you know, have a look into things further. So just a thing flashing. My brother, I'm double-checking now, is now very much actively involved, and is my gatekeeper. Now, any run-of-the-mill spiritualist medium understands that, but not many of them could say that they have a brother, a close relative, who acts in that role. Generally, it's a Red Indian chief or someone from a totally different culture, where spiritualism, again, is more culturally accepted. Whereas we in the West, there's still, you know, doubt and whatever, and so it has to be done under a scientific guise. That brings me to the Arthur Findlay College. Yeah, my father went to the Arthur Findlay College, put his money where his mouth is. You know, it's not cheap to go there, and did courses and ended up, he was quite proud of this, that Gordon Higginson, who was one of the major, if you like, physical mediums of the time, he was chosen or given the honour to search Gordon Higginson to make sure there's no hanky-panky, because a lot of materialism, right, get it right, mediumship is where ectoplasm's involved, and if anyone understands this, you do. And obviously, because it has to be done in low light, right, there's a lot of suspicion that there could be hanky-panky going on. Anyway, he did that, and I've now applied to the Spiritualist National Union. I told them that I've got videos on YouTube and Facebook. Could someone just pop over and have a look? Obviously, if they feel this isn't the appropriate way we do it, Graham, you will need to be screened. We can't just accreditize anybody. We'd have to see you in action, although a video is that. But anyway, right. But I'm a jack shit. So, Spiritualist Union, Great Britain, how about, you know, at least responding to my request, because it is possible, not possible, I channeled that wrong, it is very much part of what I am about. I am a medium, amongst many other things. I'm also a comedian, which does give me an edge, I'm sorry to say, on most of the mediums practicing in this country are boring farts, right? And you see it, you know, it's the same old shit. Oh yes, I think I've got Jimmy coming on. Bollocks. If you're a medium and a channel, woo, lights gone, I'm channeling now. Right? Occasionally you might see me pause. Something suggested that obviously my gatekeeper obviously has a lot of control, keeps most of the riffraff out. In fact, he does a damn good job, right? I'm operating in a sanctified space. You can see there's pictures of various spiritual things. There's a candle lit, incense has been lit, and whatever. I'm in a protected, safe space. So no entity of any can get anywhere near this. They are attracted. This is why we're told that when you do any work like this, and I used to use prayer work here, even using, quickly plug that in, right. Now this is very interesting. Not many people might know this. This is the latest technology in prayer wheels. Now a lot of people haven't got my older one, but this is using 7, you see it, if you look close, 7 DVD discs that have all had mantras put on them, and I'm going to stop and read this because it's mind-boggling, right? On the bottom of the disc, I'll take that off, very careful of that, There you go, and you can read. I thought it's an 8 DVD stack. I can plug the company so it can be checked. It's probably upside down, but it's 8 DVDs. And then if you look, of course it's got the focus. I think it says total at the bottom. I'm trying to get it clear. I'll quickly look just at the total. Total manchas on this disc is 84,348,750,000 manchas. Now I may have got that wrong because it's such a big number. I'll read it out. 84,348,750 zeros. That is the total number of manchas on this. These are blessed by a lama. They're made by a company I saw, Tibetan Tech Prayer Wheel, you can find online, based in America. And this was made in 2010. And it's the Sakya Monastery of Tibetan Buddhism. For those that are into that, there are various streams of Buddhism. It has on it quickly the various manchas. Alai, the foundation of all matters. Kali, purifies speech. Om Tara Chucha, that is Tara, but it mentions immediate relief from suffering, but that is an appeal to Tara. Om Mani Padme Hum, I'm sure you've all heard of that one. Release suffering of all beings. Om, Om long life, right? Om Aham, because again, Padme Siddhi Hum, doesn't even give a description of that one. Of course it does, grants divine powers and meditation. Yedi Ma, concentration and, it's terrible, see my eyes, stabilization, I think, and Vajrasattva, purification. Now, simply put, I used to use this as my practice 45 minutes a day, right? Now this will blow you away. One revolution of this prayer wheel, I'll do it now, just one, well that's more than one, but you can just time it and estimate it. One revolution equals the equivalent of someone just speaking the mantras for nearly a year. So, if you want to purify yourself, you want to purify a room, which I did. Obviously, one doesn't want to spend the rest of one's life doing that. That's a mistake. But I was certainly being prepared, you could argue, for this ministry. Oh, yeah. I wouldn't like to calculate how many years of actual spiritual retreat I'd have had to do in real time to get anywhere near the amount of mantras that were used. I did the right things. I was advised that all these mantras are whizzing out and that beings all over the place are attracted because it's giving out an astral light, a light we can't normally see, but it attracts. Imagine it. And I've got things, I've got a fairy ring in my front garden. Now these are physical for that. I've got a fairy ring. And the locals have walked past it who know and are into, no. And it's the real thing. And it's like, it's made up of plants that have just grown, sprouted, and it's a natural mound. I don't walk on it so much because it is quite soft, but the birds are attracted to it. And it's a feeding place for the birds. You have to walk past my place. I've left the rose bushes grow quite long, so I'm into being a natural garden, right? And they use it like trees. There's all sparrows cluttered up there, even though I haven't put any seed down. Been away for a month, for instance, in Phuket. So no seed for a month. The birds still gather there because it's the energy. The house, this will blow you. The house, and it wasn't me, is named after the famous film that purports that Jesus had a bloodline and there's a monastery involved in Scotland. It'll come to you in a minute. But that was how it was when I bought the house. But I knew this house is very special and unique. I mean, I could take you around my camera. You've got downstairs, here I am, and it's surrounded by, it's a shrine. I've got a big table. You've seen it in the previous film. And there's only room for about another 2 people to sit in if you're lucky. The bedroom, the same thing. It's small, but it's compact, and it's got a shower. a nice shower now. You know, the real thing that's equivalent to a mikveh. You know, there are better design showers. You get the ones I had in Phuket, you've got a shower head, but then you've got this massive big tap coming out the side, and that's generally used just to flush away all your soap. But what I have been doing is just leaving it running, because that's the principle of mikveh. See, there's fresh changing water being drained away as well under your feet, and then there's enough water, I should think, every time I have a shower, that it does go right through the drainage system and into the sea. Maybe not all the way in one shower, but that's its pathway, because that's how things are. And, you know, Phuket and that, and they've got a very basic, good drainage system and all this. So I've been doing mikvahs every day that I've stayed on holiday. And I did go just once, that's all I needed to do, to the mikvah. I call it Small Lake. It's not, although you've seen the film, that is the reservoir side, and it's massive. And obviously a stream feeds that, the other end. It's totally fresh water, because the local fishermen catch freshwater clams in there, they go diving and all the rest of it, right? Then I've explained before, but the water then comes at the other end through like a little lock gate that goes under a little bridge,